Hence this very large baby whom she dotes on a little bit too much with the overfeeding.
That's messed up.
Yeah.
Wait, so then I want to know how they die. She overfed him to death, which you can assume. And then what? She commits suicide?
No, that's not what happened. So what happens
Wait a minute, he ate her.
No,
Yes,
stop.
no, he didn't.
No, that's not right.
And then he choked.
Ew.
From Rosemary's Baby and Reagan McNeil, to Jason, Freddy, and Chucky, to Samara, Jigsaw, and Pennywise, we can't get enough. If it's blood-curdling, spine-tingling, breath-quickening, or soul-stealing, we're ready to watch it. Welcome to Hilltop Horror Movie Reviews. I'm your host, Ray Richards. With me tonight are my two co-hosts, Anne Conley.
Hey, everybody.
And Helen Stewart.
Hello.
All right, tonight we are reviewing the 2001 Canadian-American supernatural horror film 13 Ghosts, directed by Steve Beck. It's a remake of the 1960 film 13 Ghosts by William Castle. It was shot entirely around Lower Mainland, British Columbia. Okay, so to start off, we usually talk about if we've seen the movie before and what our expectations were going into the rewatch. So, Helen, you want to start us off?
Sure. I have seen this movie before. I assume I saw it around 2001 as a blockbuster night. Blockbuster and chill?
Yeah, maybe. Sure.
We'll go with that. I didn't remember a single thing. And when I watched it this time, I realized why.
All right, Anne.
All right. I mean, I was excited to see this film. It was one of the ones I've chosen. Same as Helen, absolutely. Girls sleepover, blockbuster rental for sure, 100%. I remember really liking this, back in 2001, 2002 when I saw it. It was right when, sort of the tide had turned and like a lot of scary movies were coming out. There were some pretty pop ones. And I remember really enjoying this one. Going back and watching it again, I don't know so much, but it was a fun, quick journey.
Okay, so we reviewed The Ring, which came out, I believe, in 2002. And this movie is, to some extent, a holdover from the 90s to me. It has this poppy feel. And I remember thinking this when I saw it in 2001. It's a consumable, like, popcorn movie. And going into the review, I was thinking I was going to feel the same way. And to be honest with you, I think I pretty much did. Okay, so Anne, do you want to play the trailer?
Sure thing, Ray. Here we go. Trailer time and action.
There are ghosts around us all the time. Most of them, they can't hurt us. Most of them don't even want to hurt us. But there are exceptions.
Is it bad tonight?
Oh, bad? It's my professional opinion. We should get the hell out of here. Now.
I represent the estate of your Uncle Cyrus.
We have an Uncle Cyrus?
Cyrus recorded this message 6 weeks ago. He asked it to be played for you in the event of his death.
Arthur, I've instructed my lawyer to deliver my last will and testament.
Key?
Key to what?
A key to your new house. This house is the fruit of my life's work.
Oh my God.
It is a one-of-a-kind home.
It's marvelous, isn't it?
Wow!
Arthur, we've got some papers to sign in the library. After that, I would love to take you and the family around the tour of the house.
This place is awesome!
All right, now I know I'm dreaming.
Well, your uncle was quite a collector of many things.
What the hell was that?
This Halloween.
You're wasting your time. It's all sealed up.
The only thing worse than being trapped in a house with a ghost.
This house is not a house. We're in the middle of a machine. Powered by the dead.
Is being trapped in a house with 13 ghosts.
Maggie! What? We got company. Where? I can't see. How close is it? Close enough to hurt you. Go, go, go!
you not to get me killed? I guarantee nothing.
Ghost hunter Cyrus Kriticos and his psychic assistant Dennis Rafkin lead a team on a mission to capture a spirit called the Juggernaut. Several men, including an apparent Cyrus, are killed while the team is able to catch the ghost. Cyrus's nephew, Arthur, a widower, is informed by Cyrus's estate lawyer, Ben Moss, that he has inherited Cyrus's mansion. Financially insecure, Arthur decides to move there with his 2 children, Kathy and Bobby, and their nanny, Maggie.
First problem that I have. He's financially insecure due to a horrible fire from his previous house. His wife gets killed. How do you afford a nanny? Not a great nanny, but they still afford a nanny.
That is true.
I also wonder, where's your homeowner's insurance? Like, what? Because your house, like, burns up, you don't have any money? I don't know. I'm pretty sure that's not how that works. Maybe he just didn't have any insurance.
Yeah, that made no sense, really. The nanny, the lack of homeowners. I mean, they lived in what seemed like a pretty upscale, middle-class neighborhood house anyway.
Middle class? You kidding me? That was a nice house.
Yeah, I don't know.
They were wealthy.
That's what I mean. I don't understand what happened. I guess maybe the inference is that he let it all, when his wife died, he just kind of let everything go because it passed due bills and he just couldn't work or something. I didn't really understand that piece.
I thought it made more sense that he had a mental breakdown, not that they were destitute.
Yeah.
But yeah, and I totally agree. Also, it's not like they need a nanny that they have like 2, 4 and 5-year-old kids. He has like a 16, 17-year-old daughter.
She looked 25 to me.
I couldn't tell. I really thought she probably was 18 or older.
Yeah. I mean, can we just talk about the characters for a second? Of course, we've got Shannon Elizabeth, so quintessential, right, with
90s.
Right, like American Pie and everything. And Matthew Lillard, who, of course, we just saw in Scream again. So I thought that was awesome.
Shaggy. Does Shaggy's voice.
Although I will say, just while we're on the subject of characters, that Matthew Lillard, of course, playing his character in this, probably one of the weakest. Well, there were quite a few weak spots in the movie, but he kind of annoyed me with his acting throughout.
Yeah, it was like he was trying to take his shtick from Scream and just slightly adapt it for this movie. But I will say that he kind of grew on me as the movie went on, I guess.
I agree with that. I felt that a lot of his jokes fell short.
Yeah.
But he did grow on me as the movie went on.
Yeah, and you could almost believe that his weirdness was caused by his sort of psychicness, right?
Yeah, which was fine. I agree.
Yeah.
But sort of the intonation and the jokes and the saliva again. I was like, is your thing
so much
saliva?
Sweating. Yeah, that and the sweating. Everybody was so sweaty.
Yeah, I don't know.
It's a glass house. It's hot in there.
It wasn't even daylight out. There's nothing like why is everybody dripping in sweat and saliva everywhere?
I don't know.
Adrenaline.
So can I start by saying that this movie, the very first shot of the movie is this like MTV music video, camera cocked to the 45 degrees through the junkyard thing. And I'm like, oh boy, here we go. That was my first thought. I was like, oh, this is it.
Yeah, I have to say, I felt exactly the same thing. At first, I was excited. Again, I was excited to see this because I thought it was going to be really nostalgic and a pretty good movie. Like a decent, like a pop horror movie.
You got one right.
a pop horror movie. But, fun, like enjoyable. And then, yeah, it starts in that in the junkyard, exactly to your point, Ray. And my stomach actually sank. I was actually like, "What is this piece of shit that I chose to watch?"
Like, oh man,
oh, with the sparks.
Yes.
Oh god, it was so bad. It was so bad. And I was like, I don't remember why they're in this junkyard. What does even happen? What's this relevance? And but then the car comes in and Cyrus steps out, in his silk. Scarf and the trench coats flying, and it suddenly felt like we were in Raiders.
Yeah.
I was like, wait, we went from the bad MTV music video to Indiana Jones, and thank God it stabilized somewhat after that.
Yeah, I remember thinking going into the rewatch, one of the things I remember from having seen it previously is I thought it was kind of like Ghostbusters. I remembered this aspect of the sort of ghost hunting piece. And I thought that was cool the first time, I think. And this time I couldn't get over the bad dialogue, and felt so rushed. They tried to cram so much into that first scene so you understood what was going on to set up the rest of the movie, but it had no room to breathe. And like all the paramilitary guys running around and all that, it was just weak to me. And can I bring up one other thing about Cyrus versus Monk? What's his name? Oh, Arthur. So Tony Shalhoub plays Arthur. All right, so Cyrus is 57 years old when he dies, okay? It says it in the newspaper. Tony Shalhoub was born in 1953. He was 47 when he was in this movie. I don't understand how this uncle-nephew thing works.
It can work.
I have a half sister that's 20 years
no,
older
no,
than me.
My mom is an aunt to somebody who's actually older than her.
I'm not.
Yeah, eat it, Ray.
I'm not saying that you can't be within a decade of your uncle or your nephew in age. What I'm saying is they make it sound like Cyrus used up the whole family fortune before like Arthur was around to experience it, and he's only like not even 10 years older.
That is true. I didn't even think of it that way. Okay.
Yeah,
I'll go
so
with that.
that was my problem.
I guess that was not one of the
I
things that
would be-
concerned me. I mean,
look,
I'm not gonna lie.
Look, I literally was like, is Tony Shalhoub supposed to be? Is he my age? And if so, do I look that old?
No.
Thank you.
Now the truth comes out.
Yeah,
That's what you're concerned about.
Believe me,
Forget about like the family
No.
fortune. That you're just trying to ground it in some sound piece of logic.
I just
Please tell me I look good.
yeah,
Please.
it consumed me through most of the movie. I'm not going to lie to you. I was looking at Tony Shalhoub on like, is he really only like 39?
But I feel like he's like a kind of guy who doesn't age past a certain point. Like I think he's always looked 47.
That's what I was going to say.
Well,
I think
I was both ways. He was never younger, and he was never older.
Right.
Yes, he's always been 47.
Yeah. Yeah, if that. I was going to say, I think he's always looked 60.
Yeah, poor
I think he might have
poor
dyed
monk.
his hair in here or something.
Poor monk. Come on.
He's just got that face. It's like those people that, like, even when they're 24, they already look like they're, like 40 or 50.
No,
and you're just like, oh.
So to reel it back
Sorry.
to reel it back in slightly.
Not like your baby face, right?
Yeah, I know. I will say one thing about this movie. I liked the general concept of the technology meets the spells written on the glass, and they never went into it enough or used it enough that made me appreciate it like in the movie. But I thought a better movie could have used this whole idea.
So have either of you seen the 1960s version?
I'm
I'm curious.
I literally did a double take when we read that. I was like, wait, this is a remake? I didn't know that. Now I have to go back and watch the original.
Yes, me too. I agree. I did read, a little fun fact, was that they provided glasses to watch the original, but the glasses didn't work so that you could see the ghosts out of one. They were almost like 3D glasses where one side was red and one side was blue.
Uh-huh.
So you would see ghosts on the one side and then it would be hazy on the other. But they didn't really work. 1960s though. So pretty cool.
Interesting though.
Yeah.
A little gimmick to get people in there.
It is. But that is how original 3D glasses worked with the 1 and the 1. But yeah.
Yeah, I don't
just
think it was quite developed enough yet for them to
shot.
Yeah.
Interesting. I also feel like this is prime for a remake again. Because I agree that the structure is very sound, the elements are there. And I remember, certainly being younger, like being scared and fascinated by these 13 different characters. I agree. I was really disappointed watching it back again, as an adult. And you're kind of craving more development.
Right.
This movie is not really a horror movie. It's like a action movie, I guess. There isn't much. There's horror in the sense of like, they could die, the ghost could kill them, but it's not scary, I don't think.
I wouldn't even call this B-rated horror. I love all horror in this.
Well, that's it. Well, that's the thing. Like,
I don't know what to call this. A joke?
How would you categorize
Well,
this?
B-rated horror knows, a lot of those movies know they're B-rated.
Right.
Or they have a restriction in script, in finance or whatever that forces them to do things a certain way, and you can appreciate it for that. This movie was given a budget. It was given actors that can act. Can they act? I guess, and other things they can act.
Are they all Canadian? Maybe this explains a lot.
Maybe it does. I don't
Matthew
know.
Lillard is and Tony Shalhoub is, aren't they? Oh, yeah, and Shannon Elizabeth is.
Oh my gosh.
Oh, you
Enough
cracked
said.
it. You cracked the case.
All right,
Oh, sorry,
so
Canada.
Canada sent this to us. All right, that's a problem. I got it. Blame Canada.
No, but also
Okay.
this was a remake. And I will say, as we talked before, whether it's a screenplay or a book that's being made into a movie or, a movie remake, right? They are being beholden to to your point, Ray, that you're just saying now, like there's a specific plot, there's specific circumstances, but at the end of the day, I will say, it felt like a Cliff Notes almost to me. Like you didn't get to know any of the ghosts enough for them to actually be that interesting. Again, I don't know why, like back in the day, that was clearly enough. I just think now, like, was Buffy the Vampire going on at the same time?
Yeah, it was already almost over.
Yeah, so you've got like all this kind of like background of Buffy the Vampire.
97.
Yeah, right. And then Angel was coming out, so you're kind of transitioning into Angel's probably going out at the same time. So you've got all this kind of like back history going on during this time when it came out that just made it really interesting and relevant. And now I think we're just so much more content driven. I think we're content spoiled these days. That makes this a piece of crap.
Well, I'm going to go back to what I said before, which is this movie is like a 90s holdover to me. If you've ever seen Wayne's World from the early 90s, Wayne's World's world is like what the 90s would have been had Nirvana and grunge music not happened. It's like a holdover from the 80s, big hair bands, all that stuff, but it's in like 91 is when they filmed it. And by the time it came out that like next year, Nirvana exploded and it totally changed the musical landscape. So it's this weird thing, and I think this movie's kind of like that as well. The 90s horror was a lot less scary, I guess, compared to what comes after, which is The Ring, which sets up this whole tone and kind of more serious horror. This definitely is not.
The acting was so terrible.
The dialogue was horrible.
Like, Matthew Lillard can be funny, but he was overdoing it or something.
Even,
and then the nanny, like, so you have... She's definitely the token black girl.
Yeah.
Although
did not work.
I don't know. I liked her more than pretty much anybody else in the movie.
She had one funny joke. One.
Yeah, and I mean,
she had one line that really sounded authentic. Then they try to give her that like joke at the end of the movie, and you're like, "Wow, that was literally just patronizing."
Yeah,
right? You're like, "Let's get the black lady to ad lib something and slap it on at the end." Like that was bad.
All right, you want me to move on? All
yes,
right,
please.
Here we go. Posing as a power company inspector, Dennis meets the family and Moss as they tour the mansion. The residence is made entirely of glass sheets inscribed with Latin phrases, which Dennis recognizes as barrier spells. While searching the basement, Dennis is hit by psychic flashes and discovers the 12 angry ghosts he and Cyrus captured are imprisoned in the house, held captive by the spells. As Dennis warns Arthur, Moss slips downstairs and picks up a valise of cash, unwittingly triggering a mechanism that seals the house and releases the ghosts one by one. He dies when a set of sliding doors snaps shut, cutting him in half. Bobby slips away from Kathy and Maggie and enters the basement, where he sees several of the ghosts, particularly that of the withered lover. His mother, Jean, who had died of injuries sustained in a house fire, he is knocked unconscious and dragged away.
So before all of this happened, we see the video where Cyrus is giving the house to Arthur. And behind Cyrus is this whole black zodiac symbol thing. And when he's having, like, the tell-all in the video, it's almost like they're having a conversation where Arthur says, I keep wanting to call him Monk, Arthur says, what is this key for? And then the guy says, it's for a house. And I was just like, please.
That's so funny. I did not even catch that.
It was a conversation.
I think I was like staring so much at that AOL like interface that they were using. Yeah. I couldn't take my eyes off of it. And the fact that they had screaming faces in the background of the video. And like nobody's looking at this key going, I don't know. Cyrus, you're kind of surrounded by dead bodies in this video that you sent me. Maybe I'm not going to choose to take this one on.
The 25-year-old daughter is like, yes, let's take it. Yeah. Oh my God.
I think the best part about that is how the video, like the window disappeared and would come back up in a different place and disappear and come back up and he'd have more to say. Like, yes. What are we doing there? Why?
I didn't notice. I just felt like it went to another video that he showed, and then it was like he came back to end his dialogue.
I don't
know. That didn't bother me.
Yeah.
I don't know. Anyways, okay. Did you guys see it when they drove up? The wood-paneled station wagon. Oh. See? It came back.
Which was
2001.
They were in a wood-paneled station wagon?
Yes, they were in a wood-paneled station wagon.
That's because...
2000, baby.
That's because, okay, they had an SUV, and it burned up with the house in the garage, and the father didn't have a job because he was, had a mental break, and they had to buy an old, busted-up station wagon.
Look, obviously we agree that they're destitute and they're buying it. They're driving a piece of junk, but as per it was our Halloween discussion, right?
Mhm,
the Halloween
right.
review. They do exist in 2001.
Well, I know no, it wasn't our Halloween review. It was House on Haunted Hill, our companion podcast piece that if you're not following, you should follow. Because they escape in the the station wagon,
yes,
and I was saying that takes place probably in the 90s.
God, we have got to keep a weird running list of this stuff, like the wood panel station wagons,
the popcorn,
the Jiffy Pop,
popcorn.
Mhm.
Yeah, we got to keep a list.
No popcorn in this movie, unfortunately. Could have done with some popcorn. Probably.
I probably should have had more drinks, but I watched it on a work night, so
Yeah, definitely doing shots while taking this would
Yes.
immensely improve this. Maybe every time you see boobs or something. I don't know.
Yeah, well,
We didn't see enough boobs.
All right, let me. I was going to talk about boobs, but
there's
you girls,
one part about boobs. You're right.
you ladies broke
Well,
the
I guess
whole
there's two
conversation up. So
You can't avoid it.
yeah, so I will say a couple things. I'm going to skip the actual boobs, and I just they teased
What
us.
actual boobs?
They teased us with Shannon Elizabeth's
Yes.
boobs a little bit.
When she's getting clawed.
When she's getting clawed up, and he kind of claws her shirt, and then he claws her bra, and it's like,
Yes.
oh, there's a little shift there. No, nothing.
No, yeah.
And I was like, and
you only saw the fake ones from the ghosts.
Yeah, then I don't think those were actually fake.
Well,
Oh yeah,
No,
they
no,
were
no,
so
no,
fake,
no,
so
no,
badly fake.
no,
right?
because-
they might be hers, but they were fake. Is that what you're
Maybe
saying?
they were hers that they were fake.
Or they're
sure.
just fake.
Complete prosthetics.
No, I don't think they were prosthetics because I swear
No way.
I saw a making of about this movie and they showed them
About the boobs.
applying the scarring to her chest. Maybe I'm making it up. I don't know.
They were terrible. Whatever they were.
They were horrible.
Yes.
I'm sorry
The
if
scars
those
or
are
the
your,
boobs?
I'm sorry if those are your real boobs. No, that was bad.
All right. I don't. Whatever with the boobs.
Ray disagrees.
I don't disagree.
Not my kind of
I don't
boobs,
disagree,
sorry.
but I'm trying to find something in the movie that's interesting, and the boobs were at least something to look at.
We had to talk about it.
There are boobs.
But here's the thing. Here's the thing about that ghost, though, that I don't. I don't know why I'm even pointing this out because nothing really makes sense in this movie. But so she's in the tub, and a Shannon Elizabeth comes in, and I think this is a pretty decent scene, right?
Cool scene.
But
yeah,
it's
and with the bathroom all painted in blood and the I'm
Yeah,
sorry
yep.
on the ground. Come on, that was cool.
in the like water, and then it turns to blood or whatever.
Yeah.
But what's interesting to me is I don't know if it was the actress just herself, or if she was told to do this, but she seems very much like looking at Shannon Elizabeth's character and I don't know, trying to decide. Like she isn't just about stabbing her or killing her or whatever. Like she was trying to, I don't know, she was thinking about something. Understand. I don't know what it was. And I wish there had been more of that. Like the psyche of the ghosts instead of just nothing.
They did talk about it. So I thought that was interesting. I think you see that a couple of times that they're not just outright like pulling people apart, stabbing them from the get-go, which I wasn't sure how I felt about. I was kind of like, well, either you're like pure evil and you're just going around and stabbing everybody, or yeah, I mean, they were playing up the idea that they, I don't really want to say had a soul, had like a moral compass, a conscience. Obviously they didn't. But what they were saying was, not all ghosts are all bad, or not all ghosts are bad or good. And they spoke to that a little bit, but there was just no development there.
No, but I agree with you, but it seemed like they were targeting these ghosts. All the ghosts except for the mother were basically violent. Right? I mean, she had a knife. I'm assuming she used that knife to kill herself in real life, but she was also, it looks like she was going to use it to stab somebody. Right? And obviously the jackal was the guy the crazy ghost that was going after everybody, which was the one who was causing the most damage. But like, yeah, the creepy mom and the big baby boy or whatever.
Yeah.
I just, they just didn't do enough with them for me to understand.
So I don't know. This is part of my fun fact, but I feel like I need to do it at the end. If you own the DVD, and I'm certainly not plugging that you go out and buy this DVD.
Look, you can
we
get
might
it.
have this.
Listen.
I might have bought it in 2003.
Listen, I guarantee this movie is bundled with like 5 other movies for $1.
So they
like
have
with
like
the cell.
They do a little history of each of the ghosts in the DVD.
Oh, yeah. See, that's cool.
So my fun facts is going back and talking a little bit about that because I feel if you had known the story of the ghosts, it might have meant a little bit more to you watching this movie. I don't think it would have added much.
See, but that's what I mean. Like, I think there's really interesting content here. And, like, the house was amazing. Like, the glass house.
I will agree with that.
With the scripting and the mechanics. Like, that was so cool. Also, I would want to know more, like, is that a set that they built specifically that is still intact? Like, it seemed very robust.
Right.
So I don't know if they just broke it down after this.
There's no privacy. That was another problem I had.
Well,
no privacy. So she the daughter goes into the bedroom and is picking her room. And essentially picks the room. This is the room with the bloody bathroom. Yeah. Picks the room of the suicide girl. And there's perfume on the dresser. The bed is really nice. Glass walls. Big bothersome thing for me. Puts the perfume on. Why would you do that? Clearly, this isn't for you. So you're putting somebody else's perfume on. Then goes into the bathroom, which had the kind of like the glass blocks.
Yeah, the opaque glass blocks, yeah.
I just wouldn't want to go to the bathroom in there.
Opaque?
Even the floors were glass.
Yeah. Where are the pipes?
I was going to say, yeah, I mean, I guess as long as the pipes aren't also
glass.
See-through.
As long as the toilet is in glass. Yeah, it's all a little weird. I mean, you have to suspend your belief. And they do call it out. Like, a house of glass, that doesn't make any sense. There's no privacy. Right. So you just kind of go with it.
All right, so there is one thing in this movie that I think is superior to almost anything I've seen in any other movies. And that is the effect of the lawyer being bisected by the doors. I thought that was such a good effect. I was looking at it like, how are they doing this? And he slides down, and I'm like,
and you see like the optic
and the other side, and the other side slides down, and like his eyes are like moving. Like I was like, how did they do that? Very good.
Brutal. I thought the same thing. I thought that was the best effect in the whole movie.
Yeah, I thought it was the best effect in many movies.
Mm-hmm. I forgot about that until we were watching it again, and then I remember definitely having seen that and just how graphic that was, even for its time. Yeah. I mean, even the ghosts back then were graphic.
That's true. The ghosts were. Although I think it's an interesting narrative decision to have him be killed by the glass walls instead of having him be killed by a ghost.
Well, and it made it seem like the ghost was controlling the glass walls. Where in actuality, you're like, well, they're not metaphysical. Like, that's not their thing. No. So it, again, was a little bit of a misstep kind of to create this cool effect.
That was my favorite part of the movie. That was the only time I found something funny because the nanny then says, what, did the lawyer split? After he literally got split.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
So I laughed, and then that was it.
Okay, let's move on to the next section. Using a pair of spectral glasses that allow the wearer to see into the supernatural realm, Dennis convinces Maggie that the ghosts are real. Dennis discovers that the jackal, one of the most dangerous of the 12 ghosts, has been released, and that the family is now in grave danger. The jackal attacks Kathy when she and Arthur enter the basement in search of Bobby, but they're saved by Kalina, a spirit liberator who is attempting to free the ghosts. Kathy disappears soon afterward, and the four adults gather in the library where Arthur learns that Jean's ghost is trapped in the house. Kalina explains that the house is a machine powered by the captive ghosts that can allow its user to see the past, present, and future. The only way to shut it down, she says, is through the creation of a 13th ghost from a sacrifice of pure love. Arthur realizes that he must become that ghost by dying to save his children.
Okay, so the other thing that we didn't talk about that is decent about this plot are all the twists. So again, I think the movie is primed for a remake. You could definitely clean this up, better the effects, give a backstory to the ghosts. I mean, I felt like a good quarter of the movie was just like a camera wandering the hallways with no ghosts in sight, no people in sight, trying to do this kind of spooky effect, and you're just like, did you run out of budget?
I agree.
That was weird and pointless. And to your point, right, like in the beginning, if you're trying to rush all this stuff into a 90-minute movie, then take away the scenes that you're just breathing, where you're spending like 30 to 60 seconds just of open air. So I thought that was annoying. But I thought the plot twists were good. So because they kind of get to this house and you're like, why are they there? Like, this is weird. And, then the lawyer goes to get the money, and then it triggers the whole reaction. And you're like, but why would it do that? Like, if the lawyer was in on whatever's happening, then why? You're just kind of going through this. Like, you're not really sure, what's happening or where this is going or why anybody would want to put children in danger. So you're kind of like, was this on purpose, or, was it accidental? Were they not meant to be there? Or like, was the lawyer meant to get them out? And then of course, inevitably you learn that Cyrus isn't dead. He is in fact alive. He's there. He's pulled this whole thing together. And even Kalina isn't who we thought she was.
Yeah, so this part of the movie, what bothered me was the fact that Kathy disappears and doesn't show up again till the last reel, basically. Mm-hmm. Right? I mean, they don't use her at all. In fact, both the kids just sort of go away and then come back at the last scene. And I thought that was a real missed opportunity. In today's world, I could imagine that it would have been Arthur that ends up being killed or whatever, and Kathy ends up being the heroine. And it's not like, 2001 is not that long ago. I mean, we have had strong female characters in movies, in 2001 and previous. So I thought it was a missed opportunity there. And Kalina, as far as Kalina's character, I don't know who the actress is. I've seen her before in other movies, but I found her to be a little annoying. I guess you could probably tell that she was bad, right?
Army of Darkness.
Oh, Army of Darkness. That's where I know her from. Yeah. Excellent.
I agree. The whole Bobby disappearance thing annoyed me as well. You're just kind of like, wait, where did Bobby go? Like, he's literally MIA. But at first it seemed like they weren't even going to look for him. Like, which we've seen movies do before. Like, somebody disappears and then everybody's in survivalist mode and they're just like, you've never even heard of that character before. This, you're like, Tony Shalhoub, he's a widower. Like, all he has is his kids and his crazy nanny. Like, you would think, of course, he's going to just be out of his mind crazy trying to find the kids, trying to get back to them. So there was this weird moment of pause sort of when Bobby's suddenly missing and they haven't gone into full search mode yet, that I was like, oh, this is, now we're really starting to see this movie fall apart. But then they brought it back and they all start searching for Bobby, which was good. And then to your point, the daughter disappears. So then you're wondering, were the kids, killed by the ghosts? Are the ghosts taking them to get their body and have it? Who knows what they're doing with these kids? And of course, ultimately, it's sort of plays back into this whole theme of they try to get this family trapped in this house so they can take advantage of Art's generous spirit by sacrificing himself for the 13th ghost. And didn't necessarily intend on hurting the kids all along. But meanwhile, we're going to open up a gate to hell. So, either way.
Yeah, that whole scene where they're in the library and Kalina is basically just dumping this whole load of information on you. I didn't like it. It's just her talking and kind of reiterating what she had said a little bit previously. And even her introduction, she's shown what in her house or wherever she's at, and she's putting all her gear together, and it's a trick, right? You think she's going to save them in the house or whatever and confront the ghosts and free them, and in reality she's there on behalf of Cyrus. And of course, the first trick to me was that the whole freeing of the ghost thing, why would you want to free those ghosts? Most of them are bad. Do you really want to free the jackal and let him go? He's going to go kill people. I would leave him trapped if I had the choice.
But again, maybe they'd be happier if they were free and they wouldn't be killing people as much. And that's where I thought they toyed with that idea that they weren't just immediately killing everybody. But I thought the same thing. I'm like, are you crazy? You're going to let these out? But it was interesting. Sort of to the Greenpeace conversation up front. It's sometimes people are just very again, it's a spiritual entity. It doesn't matter if it's going to do harm. The point is that you should not be playing God.
Yeah, I assumed when she meant freeing the spirits that it was almost like you were letting them cross to the other side.
No, you could only hope.
No, yeah. I thought it was letting them out of those boxes that he was trapping them in.
I thought it meant getting them off the earth and into wherever they were supposed to go. Well, presumably hell, for the most part.
I didn't think that because she basically pulls dynamite or C4 out of her bag and says, I can free them by blowing up the house, which is not going to send them to heaven or hell. It's just going to let them free, I guess, which is another thing. She takes that explosive and that was a whole red herring, I guess. She just took it out of her bag to act like she was putting it together. Yeah, I'm going to go downstairs and blow some things up, I guess. And then she just...
Yeah, I thought that was all bizarre. So she has the flares and then she has explosives and...
Yeah, I get the flares because she's in the house and the ghosts are in the house and she could be in danger herself. But the explosives, she has no intention of blowing that house up.
Yeah,
But again, I think that was the point, which I agree in the moment. I was like, this doesn't make any freaking sense. And then like she goes and, like she's Cyrus's actual like lover. Oh, just kidding. Also, she's a dope that just got smushed between two walls. But
yeah,
kind of like in hindsight, I was like, okay, I guess that was like a whole act she was doing type of thing.
and did
It
she
didn't make
really
any
seem
sense.
like she'd be Cyrus's lover? You have this man in a silk scarf and a suit. And then you got this girl with a nose ring. I don't know.
Green piece. Well, he was just using her, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, well, we just got into the next section, so let me just read it. That's fine.
Yeah.
Armed with a pane of special glass, Arthur and Dennis enter the basement to find the children. Dennis barricades Arthur into a corner behind the glass, protecting Arthur, but allowing two ghosts, the Hammer and the Juggernaut, to beat Dennis to death. It is then revealed that Cyrus faked his death to lure Arthur to the house. Kalina is his secret partner. Cyrus has orchestrated the abduction of Kathy and Bobby so that Arthur will become the 13th ghost, which will not stop the machine as Kalina has claimed, but trigger its activation. Cyrus kills Kalina and summons the ghosts to activate the machine. Arthur arrives at the main hall and witnesses all 12 ghosts orbiting a clockwork device of rotating metal rings with his children at the center. Discovering Cyrus's true fate, Arthur fights Cyrus while Maggie disrupts the machine's controls, releasing the ghost from its power. The ghosts hurl Cyrus into the rings, slicing him into pieces with the encouragement of Dennis's ghost. Arthur jumps into the machine, avoiding the rings and saving his children. The walls of the house shatter as the malfunctioning machine rips itself apart, freeing the ghosts. Dennis smiles at Arthur and departs, and Jean's ghost appears before the family, telling them that she loves them before she and all the other ghosts disappear. As the family leaves the house, Maggie exclaims that she is quitting.
I feel like they did not give Maggie enough credit in this wiki over saving the day. Just a little bit.
I would agree with that.
Yeah. Yeah, so one of the things that I thought was interesting about this movie is right at this time, you're seeing a lot of that more active incorporation of CGI directly into movies. And as we kind of hit on, I think a lot of the things, effect-wise, that are strong in this movie are all those practical effects. The makeup, the ghosts, right? The prosthetics, the costuming, the sliced lawyer. Again, a very practical effect. Like, really, best in class. Like, top of the game. Like, really good. And then if you look at the CGI, so the rotating rings that Tony Shalhoub, which also, I don't know why you got to be jumping in and out to try to don't even get me there. But those were better, but the machine was really poor.
The machine was poor.
Right? But at that time, it was really good.
Yeah.
So when I watched this, in 2002 or whatever, I mean, that was impressive. And the idea of all the gears and the doors and everything else, like, and again, practically, and the panels of glass, how they had those etched, all of that is so well done. But now we look at that kind of like goofy gear thing where it's, right, the shadowing isn't quite right, the textures aren't quite right, and it just looks really janky.
So here's my problem with the final act of this movie. First, for some reason, Cyrus is still walking around with a fake neck cut. I don't know why. I mean, he's been dead for how long, and he just didn't get cleaned up? Like, who is he trying to trick into thinking he's a ghost? Kalina knows he's not a ghost. Anybody who just didn't have the glasses on would know he wasn't a ghost because they can see him. So I didn't understand that whole part. It was basically there so that to trick us as the viewer when Bobby sees him in the second act or the end of the first act or whatever it is. So I didn't like that. I also didn't understand when Kalina comes down into the room with him and she says, well, Arthur isn't going to do it unless his kids are in danger. And he says, go put the kids in danger. Then we go away, I think, to Arthur and Dennis, and we come back and they're in the room still or again. And he's like, he walks past her and he says, well, go get the book. And she gets the book to follow him, and that's when he crushes her. The implication is that she left and went and took the kids and put them in the center of the portal. What was the plan originally to do with the kids? They took the kids, and I guess I didn't understand any of that. It just seemed like they had to walk you through it in such a way that it was idiot proof, I guess. I don't know.
Mm-hmm. I kind of felt like that was his plan all along. She just might not have played along if she had known that, because she obviously had hesitation against using the kids or harming the kids. But, Cyrus is like, well, duh. Why do you think I got the whole family here?
Yeah.
And if the kids didn't come with, Art to come check out the house, then fine. We could probably still convince them anyways.
Yeah, I guess.
I felt like one of the other issues, so you have these 12 ghosts, and I guess they were specific to this whole thing. But then Dennis dies. Right. So you think, why isn't he compelled by this spell to bring them all to the center? Like, I just felt like there was a lot of...
Oh, yeah.
You don't explain, why couldn't he have been the 13th ghost? Because he kind of sacrificed himself. Not for love, but he sacrificed himself for the Arthur. I just
he
felt
sacrificed himself for Arthur's love for his kids.
Yes.
See how that works?
So I felt like there was a huge loophole. Yeah. Like, here's Dennis. He doesn't get compelled.
Yeah,
Why did he have to die?
And to your point, she has this book that's like written in the 1500s, and the description of these ghosts is like almost exactly like these ghosts that he happens to have in some instances, but then just sort of quasi kind of the same thematically for some of the other ones. And I don't know, like it wasn't the jackal like literally in one of the pages, and like
practically, and like the mother and the baby.
Yeah.
Seem very specific.
Yeah, and it's like, this is the 1500s. Like, those ghosts have not existed for that entire time.
I don't know. That's a fair point. I didn't think about them writing that book, centuries ago and the legitimacy of those spirits. I guess you just kind of think spiritual texts are, they are not bound by space and time.
I guess. I don't think Cyrus went back in time and wrote the book like Ash went back in time to fulfill his own prophecy.
Right.
No, but exactly. Like if they're prophecies, even if they're centuries in the past. But yeah, no, that's a fair point. I didn't really think of it that way. But I did figure, sort of the same thing. The way that they set it up was like they had recruited these 13 semi-generic ghosts, and then they get into it and they're very, very specific. They're not just thematically specific. So the 13th ghost about sacrificing yourself for love, I felt like was just the right amount of... Yes, it has to be something very specific, but generic enough that it could be you, it could be me, it could be anybody type of thing. Yeah, like the Withered Lover, like the two of them were the only ones that were sort of like, modern that made sense. Like this mini mom and jumbo giant overfed baby. I was like, what? Where does that come from and how does it make any sense?
And is that even a thing in the 1500s?
I don't know.
Yeah, so when you read the description of what these ghosts are supposed to be, they were supposed to be general themes, and then he found specific ghosts, the ghosts that met, but like the criteria. But I didn't understand. Like, it would have been nice to know how did he do the research to find these ghosts in order to trap them? Like there's so many open-ended things.
Well, I felt like that was, again, he had basically limitless resources. He'd spent all this money. He had, right, like literally, like you said, paramilitary working for him. I mean, tons of money over decades, as he referenced. So I kind of went, all right, he's done his research. He constructed that house. He's got all these spells. I mean, there's a lot of history there. But yeah, I mean, kind of to like where these ghosts came from or what.
Right.
I guess we need a prequel.
So,
not by the same director or any Canadian, please.
And I'm reading here a little bit about the cast. Even the torso, which got about 0.5 seconds of screen time, and this poor guy, Daniel Wesley as Jimmy the Gambler Gambino, the torso, and I'm like, that's more information than we got in like 91 minutes with this. Like, it was a mafia hit that guy was dismembered. Mm-hmm. That's freaking interesting.
Was the torso even up there at the end?
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
Okay, stumpy, I don't know.
Yeah, saran wrapped torso. Sure.
Yeah, the other thing that I thought they were going to go to, which they didn't, which was the idea that Cyrus actually had the house burned down to kill the mother.
So I thought for sure they were going there.
Yeah, so that Arthur would
to set these
things set the stage, and they never went there.
They didn't quite connect it, but it was almost implied.
It is. I mean, I thought it was implied pretty much.
So for the fun facts, I can run through the 13 ghosts if you'd like.
Sure, let's do that.
Do it.
Okay. So the first one's the firstborn son. So that's the kid who has the arrow shot in the back. So apparently he was playing and somehow got shot in the back of the head.
Yeah.
I don't know why they made him so devious. Like, he wasn't really quite devious, but he was just trying to call the kid down, I guess, to get things. Like the boy. What was the boy's name?
Bobby.
Bobby down into the basement.
There's some naughty little kids out there.
It's true. He looks more evil than naughty, but yeah. The second one,
he's upset. He was shot in the head with an arrow during his
in the back of the head.
Indian Prince or whatever session.
The second is the torso, where we talked about it, the gambler. But apparently he was wrapped in cellophane, and then his body was put into the ocean, kind of Dexter-like.
Nice.
The third one's the bound woman. I did not you see like 5 seconds of her.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. She's like the torso, barely, just like flickers.
Right. So she had a jealous boyfriend who strangled her to death with his tie.
Okay, so she was one of the ones I was actually the most curious about. Because at first, you hear the bound woman and you're seeing kind of ropes or whatever on her, but you can't quite catch what it is. Then later, you can see clearly that they're ties.
Mm-hmm.
But then, like, the way that she's shaking and whatnot, I didn't know if she was, like, partaking in, like, asphyxiation, like, sexual
Bondage.
Right. Yeah. I was just kind of like, oh.
It
like,
seemed like it was like more of a she cheated on him and he then kills her with his tie.
Well, that's infinitely less interesting than
Right.
I thought.
The fourth one's obviously with the lover, who's the wife, Jean. She dies in a fire. The fifth one's the torn prince. There was just a car accident. He happened to be a baseball player, hence the baseball bat. I felt like you could do more with that in the movie, but like you saw more of him than the bound woman, but not too much.
Mm-hmm.
Sixth one, the angry princess suicide. She thought she could be prettier, so she tried to fix herself and then didn't, and then decided to commit suicide.
She tried to fix herself.
Fix herself with plastic surgery on herself.
Oh.
Apparently, she thought she saw a defect on her face and tried to go at it.
Oh.
Yeah.
Not giving herself a breast implant? Because that would have
been
more
helpful.
sense. That would have made more sense.
The seventh one is the pilgrimess. So she dies in the stocks because she was accused of witchcraft.
Yeah, that was the only really throwback one, I thought. And they called her
Right.
just the pilgrim. Did they say pilgrimess? I thought they were saying the pilgrim. And
It
then,
was, who knows if that matches with what I found, because it wasn't through the website or anything. It was just random information.
I mean, it says it there too, but yeah, that threw me off too, because you had like this crazy old lady in sort of like this stock. But it was confusing what was happening. So,
Right.
and then I was like, a pilgrim? Really? Okay.
Then we have 8 and 9, which is your favorite, the Great Child and the Dire Mother.
My favorite. Oh.
So the Dire Mother is apparently a 3-foot tall woman who ends up deciding to go into the carnival. So don't know if they had those in the 1500s. She gets raped by the tall man, hence this very large baby whom she dotes on a little bit too much with the overfeeding.
That's messed up.
Yeah.
Wait, so then I want to know how they die. She overfed him to death, which you can assume. And then what? She commits suicide?
That's not what happened. So what happens?
Wait a minute. He ate her.
No, stop.
No, he didn't.
No, that's not right.
And then he choked.
Ew.
So they're working at the carnival. They decide to play a prank because I guess, I don't know, they didn't like the relationship between mom and baby man. They put her into a sack where she suffocates. He then goes on a murderous rampage and then gets executed because of the murderous rampage.
The overeating was a much better story.
I feel like, yes, we could have gone with a better story there.
Oh,
Then there's 10 as a hammer. He's wrongly accused of theft. The townspeople then drive railroad spikes into his body with his own sledgehammer. He was a really cool character, I thought.
He's intense.
Yeah. 11 is a jackal. He dies in a fire in an insane asylum, which is the box around his face.
Yep.
I guess he kept trying to tear people apart. And 12 is the Juggernaut, who's a serial killer who's gunned down by police. I guess this happens in that
Junkyard.
Yeah. Car place. And then obviously 13 is the Broken Heart.
I'm like so impressed they have such backstories.
Yeah.
They
the backstories on the DVD is probably way more interesting than the movie.
Yeah, so they spent way more time coming up with the backstories for the ghosts than they did the dialogue in the movie that the actors have to actually speak.
And on the internet, that's what most people are talking about is this Black Zodiac, this arcane book.
Are people on the internet still talking about this movie?
Yes. Some people go back and watch it and review it and say how much they love it. And I was like, did I watch the same movie?
No, see, I see.
That was me.
Listen, all right, I'll leave what I want to say till the end, I guess. So
It is the end, so go for it.
All right, now that we've reviewed the movie, it's time to rate it. Only the best movies make it to the top of the hill, and to be the best, they have to perform in 3 categories. First, technical composition, which represents how well the movie was made, including script, directing, cinematography, acting, and effects. Second is impact, which represents how well the movie accomplished its emotional intent. Was it scary or funny? Did it make you question mankind or the nature of your reality? And finally, third, enjoyment, which is pretty simple. Just how much did you enjoy watching the movie? Would you watch it again? Do you never want to see it again? So, let's start with technical composition. Helen, what do you think about this movie?
I gave it a 4. I thought some of the effects were super cool. The ghosts were really well done. The house was pretty amazing, especially with the way the walls kept changing. There was really no plot. Like I don't say there was no plot. The plot wasn't really well spelled out. I think I know more about the plot because I researched it.
Mm-hmm.
Not because they told it to me. So I give it a 4.
Okay. Anne?
Yeah, I gave it a 5. I felt the same where there were some really strong suits and then there were really just some hollow elements to it. So again, right where we were talking about costuming and makeup and the lawyer effect, the house being built. I mean, all of those were really, really, really good. You know, if we're talking about acting in this as a categorical representation as well, you know, very, very mediocre. Again, the backstories of the ghosts very interesting, but not in the movie. So just kind of some holes that, you know, rounded it out just for a very average score for me.
I also gave it a 4. As you both said, the acting, although I don't pin it on the acting exactly, the script was poor. I think the actors can only do so much with what they're given. Was not good. The building itself was awesome. Some of the effects were really good. The makeup for the ghosts was pretty good. CGI, it's 2001. What are you going to do? The cinematography also was lacking. It was all MTV movie video type of thing, and I wasn't into it. So, 4.
You know, with the CGI comment, I just have to make another comment to that comment.
Sure.
Like, when we watched The Exorcist, they willingly took the most iconic scene of the woman walking backwards down the stairs out because you could see the strings holding her.
Yep.
In this case, I feel like they just did it because they thought it would be cool. Like, they didn't even think, like, hey, this looks fake. So I feel let down. Just want to throw that out there.
Okay, noted. All right, let's go on to the second one, which is Impact. Anne, what do you think about the Impact?
So Impact for me, again, I thought that there were some really things that, you know, felt like a little flat. But overall, there were still some really good jump scares, you know, at the end of the day. So I gave it a 6. So it wasn't the weakest score because I didn't feel like, you know, this was a walk in the park, but it definitely wasn't up there with like an Annabelle or anything that just like disturbs you.
Okay, so I don't know if we're watching the same movie exactly. I gave this a 1. I felt like it was hollow to me. Like I said, the movie just was a 90s popcorn flick. I'm not even sure it really it does qualify as horror. It has ghosts, it has jump scares, but I was not impressed with it pretty much at all. So 1.
I don't think I can figure out what the Impact was supposed to be because it's from Canada. I always say Canada. I gave it a 4 because I figured I'd give him something.
Very generous of you.
I was going to say, yes, I guess that's being nice.
And finally, let's talk about enjoyment. Anne.
So again, for me, this was one where I was really excited to see this movie and kind of like do that throwback. You know, liked it when I was a kid. Just remember on a couple of different levels, you know, why I liked this back then. Watching it again, it was funny because I was just mentioning, you know, off air that it's one of those where when you're first watching it, you're like, oh, okay, you know, there's some good things, there's some bad things, like it kind of levels itself out, and then you know you get a good night rest, you wake up the next day and just kind of go, no, you know, if I was spending my time watching this versus spending my time watching even like a new, you know, B-rate or, you know, like semi, you know, negative review option, what would I do? So I just gave this a very average 5. So again, it's not one of those where I would go out of my way to watch it again, but, you know, I like the technical component. I like the mystical component. I like the idea of the 13 Ghosts. And if they really did make a remake to this, I would totally watch it.
So I gave this a 3. One of the best things about the movie are fake slashed boobs. I just can't get behind it. I like the potential of this movie more than I liked the movie itself. The idea of spells and the Latin phrases on the wall and controlling ghosts in that way, sort of ghost busting in that way, if you will, is interesting to me. The idea of Matthew Lillard's character being a psychic and kind of working with The Ghostbusters is a cool concept. The idea of the ghosts in the house in the Gateway to Hell is a cool concept. We would never see the Gateway to Hell. It just, none of it comes together to me within the movie itself. So 3. Helen.
Gave it a 2. I don't want to see it again. I would see a remake. Hopefully they would play more with the story like Ray was saying, but 2.
Here's a question. Would you read fan fiction about the 13 Ghosts since you did the background?
Probably not.
Okay. Okay, Anne. So why don't you tell us about the scale we're using and then give us our individual scores and then the overall score for 13 Ghosts.
Okay, so the way that we rate our movies is on a 1 to 10 scale, 1 being the lowest, 10 being the highest. For technical impact and enjoyment, looking at our combined scores, Helen, you rated this movie overall a 3.33. So a whopping, don't make me watch this movie again.
Please.
Ray, you rated this movie even lower at a 2.67.
Yeah, I was offended by this movie.
And it shows. And I was the most generous rater for this movie. No doubt having some nostalgia for it at a 5.33, so right middle of the road. That makes the overall rating for this movie, 13 Ghosts, a 3.77.
Okay, so that obviously doesn't put this movie at the top of the hill, but it doesn't actually put it at the bottom of the hill alone either. We reviewed Evil Dead 2, and Evil Dead 2 came in at a 3.77, so both of those movies have the same score.
Oh my gosh, that's hilarious. For such different reasons.
Yeah, I would watch Evil Dead 2 many more times than this
And
movie.
I would not.
Yeah, well, which is why it has the same score, I guess. All right, well, if you've enjoyed this podcast, help us grow our audience. Rate and review us on iTunes, and please share with your friends and family on Facebook, Twitter, and other social media platforms. I want to thank you for joining us for this episode of Hilltop Horror Movie Reviews. I'm your host, Ray Richards, and on behalf of my co-hosts, I hope you'll join us next time when we review the 1992 American Gothic horror film Bram Stoker's Dracula.